And the number one reason why nobody watches your videos on YouTube is your videos just aren't very good, to be honest. Now then, hey folks, I'm Rob. Welcome back to vidIQ, educating you on your YouTube journey. And today's lesson is all about why no one watches your videos, or at least not as many people as you think should watch your YouTube videos. Yeah, you're right, folks. This can be a particularly hard pill to swallow. The realities of being a YouTuber. You've spent hours, no, potentially days, working on what you think is the best video on that topic on YouTube, and nobody watches it. We've all been in this predicament, especially as new creators, especially when you've seen another video on YouTube and you thought, yeah, I can do better than that. And then the reality sets in. It's not as easy as what you think. But nevertheless, you put in all of that hard graft, you spend a lot of your own personal time on a video project, and that, presumably, entitles you to an audience on YouTube to watch your content. Yeah, it doesn't really work like that either. So let's start a real conversation as to why no one's watching your videos on YouTube. And the number one reason why nobody watches your videos on YouTube is your videos just aren't very good, to be honest. Now let's get one thing straight. There is nothing wrong with making bad videos. I have made over 100 terrible videos on YouTube. The key thing is you need to recognize this and take accountability for it. Let's be clear about one thing. Time and effort, no matter how much you put in, does not automatically translate into value and quality for the viewer. Subjectively, everything you create, you want to be the best thing on YouTube. But objectively, is it? And that's where the data never lies. As always at this point, we can go into a multitude of metrics. But if you are asking the question of why is nobody watching my videos, there's probably two key metrics that you want to start paying attention to. Those being click-through rate and audience retention. Metrics that we've talked about before, which are key to viewer satisfaction. Click-through rate. Did your thumbnail and title do enough to convince the viewer to click on your video? There are all sorts of generalizations about click-through rates, but here are three things to consider. If your click-through rate is above 10%, then you're doing a good job. But that can also be impacted by scale. For example, if you're a small creator getting less than 100 views per video, then your click-through rate could be a lot higher, simply because YouTube isn't sharing your content enough because they don't have enough data about you yet. But as your channel starts to grow and you get hundreds of views, then YouTube has exponentially more data to play with, and it will start testing it with new audiences. And if that click-through rate remains high, then you are doing a good job. But for most of you, your click-through rate is probably wavering between the 2 and 10% average that YouTube suggests in the YouTube studio. So when you're in that bracket, don't set unrealistic expectations based on YouTube's general guide. For example, if you have 3% click-through rate, don't expect to get up to 10% click-through rate anytime soon. What you need to do is benchmark where you currently are, be it 3%, 5%, 7% click-through rate, and over the course of 3 months, aim to improve that by 1 percentage point. 3 to 4%, 5 to 6%, 7 to 8%. That is actually a phenomenal increase in click-through rate. Now, sometimes your click-through rate can go down, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if YouTube is starting to share your content with a wider audience. When YouTube tests your content with that new audience, they are less invested in you as a creator and not as likely to click. But what would you rather have? 1,000 impressions, that's how many times YouTube shares your content, and a 10% click-through rate, or 100,000 impressions and a 7.5% click-through rate? The click-through rate's gone down, but impressions has gone well up, which means that you get more views overall because you're getting free advertising from YouTube. Now, let's say at this point you've made 4 videos and one of your videos has a phenomenal 20% click-through rate, but it's not promoted the video anymore. Well, that's fantastic. And all I'm going to say at this point is do it again and again and again. Reinforce those positive signals with YouTube through more content. This is where, through consistency, you can start to build trust and confidence with YouTube's recommendation system, which is designed to find content to serve the viewer. It's like you're making a video and saying, look, YouTube, I've got content here which has 10% click-through rate, but I've also just made this video here and it's got 8% click-through rate. Oh, and I'm going to make another one over here with 11% click-through rate, all on the same topic. Now you know to serve all of this content to that same audience and then test it with a broader audience. Audience retention. Obviously, watch time is very important for your channel at a macro level. But today we're talking about why no one watches your videos or specific videos. So we need to get into the detail, and that's where audience retention comes into play. It's a pretty simple equation. The higher percentage, the longer the viewer is sticking around on the content and engaging with it. As with click-through rate, audience retention numbers can vary greatly depending on the video length especially, but also on the topic and the audience. Wild generalization here, but younger audiences tend to have shorter attention spans. So gaming channels may see lower audience retention. That's not necessarily a bad thing when compared to other channels of a similar audience. Education channels such as ourselves tend to see lower audience retention because the viewer, more often than not, just wants answers to questions and can't tolerate fluff. I might be fluffy right now. Anyway, here again are some generalizations when it comes to audience retention. If your video is longer than 5 minutes and audience retention is above 50%, then generally you're probably doing a good job. If your video is longer than 5 minutes and you're getting audience retention above 70% in the first 30 seconds, then you've got your hook on the video and you're doing a good job. This is something that I'm really wrestling with on the vidIQ channel right now. All channels with their videos will tend to have a hockey stick audience retention, but it's that hockey stick curve at the beginning of a video that you want to try and keep as short as possible. But if you're losing a third or even up to a half of your audience in that first 30 seconds, you're never getting them back. And all that time you spent on, I guess, 80% of the video content is wasted. So as well as putting a lot of time and effort into your thumbnails and titles, make sure you do the same thing for the first 30 seconds to a minute of the video. Now, as a short aside for YouTube Shorts, if you're getting audience retention above 100%, then you're on the right track. People are actually watching your content more than once because YouTube Shorts loops around and plays a video again. Some creators are experimenting with looping their videos to get up to 200% audience retention. And if you want to know more about that, then check out the video we made on Jake Feldman's loop tactics over here. Now, let's say the data is telling you you're doing a good job. You've got high click-through rates and high audience retention. What I will say at this point is exercise patience. Sometimes you need to do this again and again and again. You have to make so much noise with the positive signals in your data that YouTube simply can't ignore you. I'm not going to say it will happen on the 3rd video or the 8th video or the 17th video or the 73rd video, but it will happen if you're making good content that YouTube thinks is valuable for an audience it can serve that content to. And more often than not, it comes down to that word: consistency. To help you scrutinize this data a little bit more, I want to show you some cool things in the YouTube Studio. On the analytics page, if you go into the advanced mode, in the top right hand corner, there is a compare to button, which if clicked, you can then select first 24 hours of a video's performance. And what this is going to do is show you the performance of all your recent videos, but it includes useful columns such as click-through rate. So if I want to, rather than sorting the video's performance purely by views, we can sort the performance by impressions to click-through rate and then look at the videos and see if there's any telltale signs from the thumbnails or the titles, or indeed through your own testing, what's working on your channel. Handily, there's also a column to sort by average view percentage, and again it will show you the best performing videos based on how much of a video is watched. All of this information is one of the reasons why I continue to personally preach at the beginning of your YouTube journey that quantity can lead to future quality. You have so much data here that it enables you to make much better decisions, actionable decisions, based off of this data insight. And speaking of the hook at the beginning of a video to keep them engaged, YouTube acknowledges analytic actually in the studio. If you go to analytics and then click on engagement and scroll down, you can see key moments for audience retention, and it shows you how many people are watching your videos after 30 seconds. Again, I'm looking for the 70% mark here. Ignore the ones at the top, by the way. These are all live streams. I really wish YouTube would not include live streams along with shorts within these metrics. So why does no one watch your videos on YouTube? Well, don't ask your family because I don't want to hurt your feelings, except for your older brother or sister. Don't ask me because I've got my own problems with my own videos. Ask YouTube. The data you find in the YouTube studio will give you the cold, hard truth, good or bad. And if the data is good, be patient and be consistent. Repeat, repeat, repeat. You will, I guarantee it, be rewarded. Now, despite all of the challenges and problems I have with the vidIQ channel and its data, you are certainly not one of them. That's because not only did you click on this video, you watched it all the way to the end. So here's your code word to put in the comments to confuse everybody who didn't quite get this far. I'm part of the 100% crew.